Oh, come on.
Welcome to the Shack News Chattycast, the podcast that was delayed as a meta commentary on delays. I'm one of your hosts, Steve Watts.
And now checking in, I'm your host, Brian Carr, also delayed. Steve, today's Chattycast brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/Chattycast. And Steve, that was what we call shtick.
Oh, I get
I'm
it.
doing a bit.
I get it. I got it. No, yeah. Okay. So
Do you get it? Do you really?
every week we pick a big topic. No, I needed it explained because jokes are funnier that way. Every week we pick a big topic, post about it on the Shack News Chatty, and then talk about it in detail. Today's guest, live with a dog in lap, Asif Khan.
Well, now the dog's barking at the door again.
Oh, okay.
The door might be ready to start something.
Live with a dog nearby. With a dog somewhat nearby. So today's topic does involve delays in sort of a tangential way. That was sort of the seed of the idea. It's really sort of morphed into more about being about day one patches, as related to the different approaches taken by No Man's Sky and Final Fantasy 15, because it provided sort of an interesting contrast. But before we get to any of that stuff, we're going to talk about what we're playing. So, Asif, I know you've been traveling a lot, back and forth to Cleveland. What have you been playing sort of on the go?
Well, I haven't been on the Chattycast since I went to TradeCon, so I guess I'll talk about that a little.
Oh yeah, that's right. You can talk about Doom VR.
I played Doom VR. It's freaking awesome. You can teleport instead of walking around. My dog is going to keep barking this whole show. I got to play Rocket League with some shackers. I ran into Soxta. But yeah, talking about Doom VR a little bit. So basically, you use the HTC Vive controllers, and you hold down your left thumb pad, and it kind of creates a little arc that points you where you're going to go. So you know Doom, right? That game requires a lot of strafing, a lot of moving back and forth, a lot of running around. You know, it was the same Doom. It wasn't like they changed the game. It's just they changed one of the mechanics. So the headline I used was behind the back, or strafing behind the back like a boss, because I was literally taking the Vive controller, not even looking where I was pointing it, and moving, which, considering I hadn't played the game before, it was super intuitive. But yeah, like you're able to dodge out of the way of a berserker really easily, get behind him, shoot him in the head. And then obviously being the Doom guy is really cool, and having a gun in your hand is super cool. It was really... It was the first FPS where I was moving around where I was like, holy crap. I haven't had a chance to play Raw Data yet, but I hear it's kind of similar. You know, I love Doom, though, so it was really a cool experience. I got to talk to Marty Stratton about it, too.
The whole teleporting mechanic seems to be a solution to motion sickness because they find that moving yourself in VR tends to cause motion sickness, and it doesn't sound like you experienced that. Did you hear about anybody else having those kinds of problems?
In Doom VR, no. The times where I have experienced, I wouldn't say it's really motion sickness, but times where I feel a little wobbly are when there's elevation change in VR, when you're not actually experiencing elevation change in the real world.
Yeah. I got a little bit of that in I remember the Arkham VR thing that they showed for PlayStation when they have the Batcave elevator just kind of drop. There was a little bit of my, and I'm usually not prone to motion sickness, but there was a little bit of me that was like, you know.
Yeah, so I think there's a little bit of that in some other games, but teleportation solves that. They're talking about Marty was talking about in the interview how verticality is one of the staples of Doom 2016. Oh my God, she's gonna bark the whole show.
We'll mute you when you aren't talking. It's okay.
I am muting myself when I'm not talking. But anyway, so basically verticality is a huge deal, and hitting the A button to jump just doesn't work in VR because your stomach is like, well, I'm still standing still. Why am I jumping? Lola! Anyway.
That's the name of the show. Lola!
Lola! Exclamation point. But then we wouldn't get to use my awesome pun that I'm very proud of. So, Brian...
It's always about your puns, isn't it?
What are you playing lately? Actually, I know what you're playing lately.
Well,
what are you playing lately that you can talk about?
I thought I could talk about the one I was playing.
Oh wait, yeah, you can because the embargo was
Okay,
yesterday.
so I'll
You're right.
start off by saying I finished the Pokemon Omega Ruby, and I'm glad to be done with it. I'm never playing it again. Also, I played some more Overwatch. Tried out Reaper for the first time. He's
Wait, for
still
the
such
first
a
time ever?
yeah. I've never really played Reaper before,
For real?
and he is such a like as a character. I just think he's such a ridiculous tryhard. Like he's
There
just
are a
so
lot of
like
characters I don't play as much, but I've
yeah.
tried everybody at least once. Like
I've probably tried like across the beta and stuff like that. I've probably tried everybody at least once, but Reaper's one I've just sort of steadfastly avoided because there's really always been one, right? I try not to play the same character that other people are playing. So I tried him out. He's all right. I don't know. Not someone I'm going to play more. Not someone if I'm going to go on offense, I'm going to stick with Soldier 76 or somebody I can actually move with instead of like being a slow, tanky shotgun thing.
But he has 2 shotguns.
I know, and it's cool. Don't get me wrong.
That
but,
speaks to me as a guy who loves shotguns in FPS.
Well, not only does he have 2 of them, he throws them away instead of reloading them.
Yeah.
Every time you speak, I see Lola's like cute little face. People need to, if they're listening to the podcast, they need to go look at the video because
I know.
she's looking straight at the camera. It's really adorable.
I'm gonna talk to the dog. But the big thing I have been playing, and you're gonna see something about this on the site next week. I don't know, whenever Steve wants to put it up, probably. I got my hands on the new Madden, and I am playing that. And it's I don't know, like if you can ask me questions about it, but
I mean, the review embargo is up, and you're still working on your review, but
yeah,
you've been thoroughly testing things. I know that much.
I have been, yeah. I still have to do some of the online stuff because I think online is up. It should be because it's in EA Access too, so it should have all the online stuff working.
I think it's online.
I
was
saw
gonna
people
ask
playing, so.
Did you play Madden 16?
Yeah.
So you know how they changed all the mechanics, basically, like when you're catching, there's like aggressive catch, conservative catch, run after catch.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I noticed, and there's the inverse too. Also on defense, you can tip the ball, you can do all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
What I noticed is that it almost made it unrealistic. That was the thing I commented on in my review, where there were too many tip balls, too many interceptions. Did they kind of pare back on that in this iteration?
I think so, because one of the things, when you mentioned that, the aggressive catches in particular felt like if you hit an aggressive catch, you're always going to catch it, right? Mm-hmm. Which was something that I don't know if they intended it to be that way. I'm guessing they didn't. But aggressive catches work substantially less of the time now. It definitely feels like they have tried to weigh that back and kind of make it so there are advantages and reasons why you want certain catching styles and defense styles. But the big thing they've done, and this is so important to Madden, is they've made running viable. Because in the last game, and probably the last couple of games, running has just been sort of an afterthought, right? Like you could probably do a decent rush offense with, certain players like Adrian Peterson or, people who aren't terrible. But in this game, it's more like, okay, if you want to go to run, you have some opportunities to actually get yardage instead of just hoping that you picked a really fast guy and that lane's open up for you. You can actually, the game gives you like on-screen prompts and says, okay, you can spin here, you can hurdle here. There's a left trigger that lets you do more kind of like, I'm not sure what they call it exactly in the game, but it's like sort of like a defensive approach where it's not quite a speed focus, where it's like, okay, I've got 2 guys coming at me. I hit the left trigger, I can try to hurdle over them or something like that. Or if I'm kind of out in the open, there's only 1 guy on me, I might go for more of a speed thing, try to spin, juke, that sort of thing. And so it gives you a lot more freedom in that ability. And I found myself running more as a result. The other big thing that's kind of interesting is they revamped like the kick mechanics for special teams. So they, instead of having the really, let's be honest, stupid analog system, I never liked the analog system. They instead kind of did a swing meter, sort of like what you'd see in like Mario Golf or kind of also in the show for pitching. And so you hit the button, starts it for power, hit it again, comes back for precision, and so you just kind of aim your kick, and then it's just timing, which I like a lot better, and it makes it so you miss a lot fewer kicks than you used to.
And probably a lot fewer than like actual NFL players too.
You're still mad about Billy Cundiff, aren't you?
Yep. Never letting it go.
But and also it's easier to block kicks. It's still really unlikely that you're going to block a kick, but they have put mechanics in the game to make it at least feasible that you can block a kick.
Well, they showcased that at the very beginning of the game with that 2-minute drill with the LA Rams.
Yeah.
I think that they tried to make the game more exciting
Yes, and I think they've succeeded at that for the most part.
Talking about the run mechanic, the one thing that really annoyed me in 16 was the collision detection was so poor that you would run into your line and just fall over. When in real life that doesn't happen. You run into your line, you kind of juke around it. It sounds like they addressed a lot of those things.
Yeah.
It seems like this is more of an iterative update from 16. 16 was a really big jump for them in gameplay mechanics, and when they do that, they tend to break stuff. That's the same thing with the FIFA team. When they do that, they tend to break the game, and then the next year they fix it.
I think that's very fair.
Brian's first reaction to me when we talked privately was, they made some changes, but it's Madden, and I was like, okay.
I mean, there's only so much you can do, right? Like, you can't completely upend the game of football because it's football, right?
Yeah.
But I will say, like, the biggest thing, like, I'm trying to kind of figure out how to put some of these ideas into words, but the biggest thing to me is that sports games, at their core, they don't have a narrative in terms of, there are characters and dialogue and that sort of thing, but they still are great for telling stories, right? And that, to me, is one of the things that I think a lot of gamers kind of overlook when they're like, oh, this new Madden or whatever. Like, I want to play my story games. Well, I've played a lot of games so far in Madden that are incredible stories, like these amazing last-second comebacks, like, just like getting an interception at this perfect time, or being intercepted at this perfect time, which reminds me, one thing that has already bothered me a lot about this game
I know where this is going.
Is that I have been trying to get my team out of the NFC Championship against the Cowboys. Now, the Cowboys are basically God's perfect idiot of a team. Like, they are objectively terrible, but they have so much money and they bring so much revenue into the NFL that the NFL goes out of their way to protect them from themselves. Madden is the same. As I've been playing the Cowboys, they've gotten ridiculous interceptions. They have gotten like all kinds of penalties called against me for things that I didn't actually do.
Yeah.
Just ridiculous. And if they're trying to simulate real life, then good on you. You've done it. Like,
are you playing as the Lions?
No, that because I decided after years of futility I would try to do something else.
Kind of going back to what you said about how sports games can tell a story.
Yeah.
There's two things that I'll say. One, I mean, look at what I'm doing with the Bizarro Wolverines in NCAA 2013. I just won the national title against Alabama, and we're going into the 2020 season. So I mean, I've told a story. There are creative players that I've created and create a franchise. My coach has had this storied career. So that's one way. The other way is, like, you look at us. You're a Lions fan, I'm a Browns fan. Our teams categorically stink.
They're terrible.
But with Madden, we can create a Browns team or a Lions team that doesn't stink, and we can live in this fantasy world where our team doesn't stink. So I think that's one thing that people who don't really like sports or don't really care for sports games miss when we see a new Madden. We're like, oh, cool. I don't have Manziel on my team anymore. Like I have RG3 and Josh Gordon's not going to be suspended for the whole year, and like maybe even though the Browns still stink objectively, a person can play up to a level where they don't, and I think that's one aspect of the storytelling that sports games provide fans that I think goes overlooked a lot of the time.
Yeah, and there's the line between sports games like RPGs and that sort of thing continues to be blurry, right? It just gets more and more blurry as time goes on. Like we saw it in Road to the Show, which is basically a baseball RPG, Diamond Dynasty, all that sort of stuff. And in this game, the franchise, I mean, they've done the franchise thing where you gain XP and you upgrade players and that sort of thing before, but it feels like in this franchise, it's a lot more coherent, a lot more obvious. And you kind of feel more attached to certain players. So, like, I've been taking the Packers because I live in Packer country, and it's kind of hard not to like them at least a little bit. So I've been taking them, and Jordy Nelson is my boy. Like, he is basically the reason I've gotten as far as I have. And so I'm going to look for him every time, and every time I do, he's going to go up in level. He's going to get better. That connection is going to strengthen, and that to me is a really cool way to kind of reflect the reality of sports, right? When you talk about quarterback and receiver combos, like you literally are looking at people who will just kind of find each other and just sort of try to kind of build a connection, right? Like if you're a quarterback, you know where your favorite receiver is going to be, and he knows what you're going to be thinking, and you're going to try to link up and get yards.
Well, Aaron Rodgers, I think, is one of the highest rated quarterbacks in the whole game this year.
He is, which brings me to another thing in Ultimate Team, because I've been playing that, because Ultimate Team is kind of my favorite part of any of these games.
I was about to ask, how deep are you going to be in Ultimate Team this year?
Well, so far, I don't know. Like, here's the like I'm doing this.
I feel like that's the moneymaker for EA. Like that's where the sustained revenue comes from.
I don't know if they've put the packs up for sale yet. I think I tried to see how much they were, but I couldn't get one. But
they're protecting you from yourself, right?
Probably. I also have to I also have to re-up my Xbox Gold to play Draft Champions, which I'm not happy about. But it's Draft Champions, so I'll do it because I love Draft Champions. But
you do like Draft Champions.
I loved Draft Champions last year, and supposedly they expanded it this year. So I'm excited.
My only beef with Draft Champions is like, okay, you make this awesome team, you get to play 3 games with them, and then they're gone forever. It's like, let me save the team so I can play with it. You know?
Supposedly, and I'm going to have to kind of like go back to the notes and see what I find out, but the Draft Champions this year is longer, so you can play more games with the team after you draft them. So that's a good step in the right direction. But yeah, I mean, like
it sounds like Draft Champions last year was very much like, hey, we took Hearthstone Arena and we put it in Madden, but they didn't think about like how Madden is different from Hearthstone and how you might want to play more of it, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, overall, it's good. There's still some jank. There's still like character models I wish would be better. Like they never look as good as they do in the still shots that they put out for PR. But you know, it's. I mean, if you're thinking about getting it because you like football, I mean, you could probably, without giving away the review, this would be a safe investment if you like football and want to play football. I think like pretty much you can skip every other year of Madden and be fine at this point.
It's literally the only game in town.
No, I mean, it's a monopoly. It's a game that totally should be a service, you know, instead of an actual annual release. I would pay an annual subscription for it, even more than what it costs to buy the game. But yeah, the one thing that frustrates me every year about Madden is that it's not on PC. You talk about a game that would look amazing running on a 1080. You know, that game would look awesome. Those stadiums would look amazing.
Absolutely.
And it's like EA used to do that back in the day. I used to play Madden on PC all the time, and it's unfortunate because that would be really cool. But yeah, going back to what you're saying about skipping every other year, there were times where I did that just because they broke the game, you know, like they spend their whole year trying to fix it, and that was last year. I got I did the review last year, so I played it on PS4 for a little bit. But I immediately went back to playing NCAA 2013 because it was more fun. Last year was so frustrating where like you threw a pass, it got tipped in the air, it got tipped in the air again, and an interception. It's like those things never happen in real life. And it's like I think it seems like they made an effort to make it a little bit more realistic and a little more balanced. Because the fact that you say you can actually run the ball is huge. Because last year you really couldn't. And it goes in this. It goes in this ebb and flow though. Like there's never like. I don't understand why they can't just keep making it better.
Is it like Star Trek movies where it's like, oh yeah, all the odd numbered ones are really good?
Kinda.
I mean, kinda, yeah. But so it's weird because like passing's not the automatic win thing it used to be either. I find that I've only been playing against the CPU because I haven't been able to play online yet. But I definitely feel like even with somebody like Aaron Rodgers, the passes are not automatic. Whereas I kind of feel in previous versions it was a lot easier to get a pass. But yeah, I don't know. Like it's good. There's still some things I think they would need to work on, but they have to put one of these out every year, and until they stop doing that, until they get to making it a service, I don't really see how it's gonna get much better than this. I mean, really, the biggest things like quality of life and extra stuff you can add, right? But I'm going to be playing it some more over the weekend. I'll probably have something up. I don't know, Monday-ish.
Tuesday.
Yeah,
something like that.
Definitely, definitely on or before release day. So keep an eye out.
Yeah, that's the target. So I've been playing some Deus Ex Go. I've also been playing some Deus Ex, but I don't know if I can say anything about that. But I played Deus Ex Go. The review went up this morning, and it's really good. I don't know if you're familiar with the Go games. It's a lot like them. but the title for my review was A Layer Deeper because there's sort of a play on words there. Obviously, you know me. Because the hacking sort of mini game feels like it's another layer in a literal way, like another layer of the ground that you're walking on, where you have to sort of draw paths for the hacking to take place in, and then if an enemy walks over the path that you've drawn, they'll step on it and sort of like disable it. And so that comes into play in the puzzles because you're like, okay, when I get to this square, I need that hack that I performed to be disabled so that this thing spins back around the other way. And so I need to like organize it in such a way that I've drawn the path so that this person will step on it at this time when I need it to strategically. So it's a really cool like little dynamic element that wasn't present in the other games because it didn't really have an analog in the other games. And I'm just constantly impressed by how well Square Enix Montreal translates these like major franchises into this weird little puzzle like format. Like they did it first with Hitman, and it was like, okay, yeah, that kind of works. And then Tomb Raider, and now Deus Ex, and it's really fit each of them. They've really tailored it in a cool way to each one. So it's a good game. It's like $5. It's totally worth it.
And hey, let's give a shout out to Bricknikov.
Yeah, I was about to mention. I wasn't even aware until this morning after my review went up, but Daniel Perez let us know, like, hey, in the chatty, there's a chatty member saying he was the creative director for this game. And it's like, oh, that's pretty rad. So we
have a ton of lurkers that are in the games industry because our site's ancient, 20 years old. So you had these 15-year-olds, 14-year-olds, or 10-year-olds that were on our site and grew up to get into the games industry. And now they're coming back to share their projects, and it's super cool. Like,
so did not influence the review because I didn't know.
No,
just to put that disclaimer out there. But it was a cool thing to find out this morning.
Yeah, and hopefully we get an interview with them or something. But yeah, I think there she goes again.
Oh no.
One more thing I played real quick, if she lets me talk. I played Day of the Tentacle on iPhone because I've been traveling a lot. Holy crap, that game is awesome. If you have $5 or whatever, buy it.
Yeah, it's one of Brittany's like favorite games, and when it came out, the remaster version, she was like, "You all need to play this."
I am still hoping against hope that they remaster Sam & Max Hit the Road because that is my favorite of the LucasArts adventure games. And
one of these days.
I mean, I know they did.
That'd be great.
They did those new Sam & Max games, and they were fine, but they just weren't the same.
Yeah. I distinctly remember like certain jokes from Sam & Max because it's one of those things that just sticks with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't have Day of the Tentacle for iPhone or iPad, get it. It's such a good game. The humor is outstanding. The writing's still really good. And yeah, it's funny because I played that game God knows how long ago, and I'm like, God, how do I do this part? And I'm like still trying to figure out something. It still feels good.
So. All that said, I think we can move into the big topic. The big topic this week, it's almost like springboarding on last week's topic of No Man's Sky, but we're not talking that much about No Man's Sky. It's more of these different approaches. We've seen radically different approaches to patches in the last week. No Man's Sky shipped with a day one patch, and last week we talked about sort of all the problems that led to. Shortly after, earlier this week, Square Enix delayed Final Fantasy 15. And the given reason behind the delay was that it wanted the finalized game on the disc without the need for a patch. And everybody got pissed off and bitched. So, so we have a game that used a patch and it led to problems, and another game that chose to avoid a patch and it led to problems. Doesn't seem like there's any like great answer that will please everyone. So this week we're talking about patches, especially the day one variety of patches. Do we prefer the standardization of patches over last minute delays? Day one patches are sort of it's just a constant now. And which is ultimately more damaging to a game's reputation and sales? And is the need for patches more a marketing or development consideration?
All right.
Lots
to go over.
Lots to go over. Yeah. Okay. So let's tackle these questions as springboard sort of one at a time. Do we prefer the standardization of patches over last minute delays? Which, given the choice between the Final Fantasy 15 model and the No Man's Sky model, which would we prefer?
I mean, look at the outrage. Look at this guy's Twitter this weekend. Like his feed. Look, you.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Look at this guy's Twitter feed and how upset he was about the 2-month delay of Final Fantasy 15 versus the butthurt from a day one patch of No Man's Sky. I'll take a day one patch and the game shipping over a game being delayed any day of the week. Because especially from a marketing perspective, when they have this huge reveal at E3 and they're like, November, and then it drops down and it's like September. And it's like, you guys completely just boned yourselves by doing
That's sort of the funny thing, because they in Final Fantasy 15's case specifically, I know Brian had some thoughts on this, so I'll segue into him talking about it. But they paid for a huge blowout event hosted by, like, I think it was Game Over Greggy? Hosted by, hosted by the Kind of Funny guys. And that wasn't cheap. Like, they, like, rented out a theater. Like, they had this huge event all centered around giving the release date.
So if you're going to do that, and then you're gonna delay it, I mean, that's gonna piss me off way more than a day one patch would have, And honestly, I think the people. Oh, she's way more upset about it.
Yeah, Lola is pissed.
I was gonna say we had to ask her opinion.
She wants her fantasy road trip movie. Brian, I was going to pick your brain about the event and the delay and all that.
Let me defend myself here first. I wouldn't say I was upset. First off, I was more baffled by it. Like, I was kind of annoyed at first, but then kind of just more over like, why would this happen? Like, why would you do this as a company?
It was like the 5 stages of grief on your Twitter.
I went through them very quickly. And by the end, I was just kind of more like, wow, like this is just sort of this weird kind of fascinating case study of this. Because people lost their minds, and like you had like the kind of standard, and this is part of why I vacillated very, very quickly back over to not being upset about it, is because I saw how crazy people were getting. I'm like, no, I can't do this. And the best part was you had people who were saying things like, well, no good journalist would use anonymous sources, and it's like, that's literally what journalists do, right? Like, you're not familiar at all with like Watergate, for example.
Yeah, it's like, wait. What?
Clearly, the games industry isn't, or the games community isn't very aware of Watergate. Because remember that Nintendo story where they're like, "This is clearly referring to Gamergate," but it was like a Watergate reference.
And that was just like really poorly handled all around. But in this case, I mean, okay, so let's go back to that idea that they spent all this money on this big to-do about announcing the release date. Okay. First off, you don't do that unless you are like 100% sure you can hit that date. And I have a feeling they were not 100% sure they could hit that date. But it really raises the me.
I mean, not even just a feeling. Like, it's confirmed. Like, we know that they were not.
Okay, so that's. But here's the thing. This to me, and this is where I told you I had a hot fire take on this. This to me is the surest argument, or one of the biggest problems with taking games as art. Because they are, for all intents and purposes, seen as commerce by the people who make them. Okay? You have individual people on the development team who are like, I want to make something good, I want to make something artistic and something that has meaning and value, but they are products. They are commodities. And the tension I feel with a lot of this kind of like release date stuff and day one patch stuff is the guy who's putting up the money, or the company that's putting up the money for you to make your game, says, hey, we've got to put this game out so we can get some of our money back. You don't have much of a choice in the matter. What are you going to do? And so you're kind of stuck in this really terrible place as a developer. And so Square was kind of calling their shot with this, and sort of almost kind of putting the pressure on, the Final Fantasy 15 team to finish up by September 30th. But of course, they couldn't realistically do that the way the game was shaping up. So this, to me, I think they were kind of put in an unwinnable position. I think they took the best possible course of action for it, but it just really illustrates the problem and inherent tension in the games industry between these two competing, creative
and commerce.
Commerce, right?
I think
you
need
need both of them, right? Like,
I
you
think
have
we
to
need
have
like
both.
a sounder, like whenever someone says like games as art, we're like, brr, brr, brr.
Little reggaeton air horn.
There it is, the secret word of the day.
But
I don't think this necessarily undermines games as art. I do think it is also a business. There is that.
But maybe it's not so much undermining as just showing why we have challenges in that area, right?
Yeah, why there's this tension in it, and that you're sort of talking about the one of the other questions, which is I just read it like a second ago. Well, is the need for patches more a marketing or development consideration? It seems like it's probably more driven by patches because I feel like every developer worth their salt would be like, we would like to put the game out when it is finished.
Yeah.
we
Yeah, I'm not
really
blaming the
want to have
developers for
to
this
hit a
one bit.
day, and then after we hit the day, continue to work on it for a patch that, you know, people who play offline or whatever are going to get a different experience than everyone else.
Yeah. And the other thing, too, about this whole patch thing, and I thought that this is why when I read the statement about why this game got delayed, I'm like, this actually makes sense and I think was the right call. They said that they wanted everybody to have access to this game the way they wanted it, without glitches, without problems, on day one because, and this is something I harp on all the time in my classes and that sort of thing, our internet penetration, our broadband penetration across the country is laughable. We are still lagging behind a lot of the world when it comes to like access to good quality high-speed internet.
Yeah, I don't think people in our industry appreciate that enough. And maybe the statistics are different among gamers. Like if you polled gamers, it's probably not the same as if you polled,
Oh, sure, yeah, they've all got like Google Fiber and like these huge terabit connections or whatever, but
So I think there is probably better broadband penetration among our hobby, but at the same time, people in our industry tend to just take it for granted as like, oh yeah, everybody's got internet. It's
Because I think about it, like, I was that kid who was really into Final Fantasy, lived in a rural area with garbage internet, and if you would have told me, like, let's say I was still that kid and I'm in the situation I'm in now, if you would have told me, hey, you've got to pull down this patch over dial-up, or over, like your crappy cable or crappy DSL line, I would have been pretty mad, right? Like, I mean, I would have done it because I want to play.
Or else the game won't work, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and so like, and this is also why I think we're so far off from this all digital future that people keep harping on. It's like, well, it's a digital future for you that you think is going to be here immediately, but for everybody who's not on the coasts, it's not going to be here that quickly.
Speaking of those people who are in that situation where they can't necessarily do that easily, like what's No Man's Sky like for them? Because as journalists who got it early and that Redditor who got it early showed, like the game was way different.
Yeah.
Before the patch, it was a completely different experience.
To the point where it's like, why even bother reviewing it before release day?
Yeah. And they didn't. That was the reason the review copies didn't get sent out. So yeah, like there's the thing about today's topic that I think is just kind of funny and also frustrating is like there's no good answer. There's no good solution. Everything is shit, and the only way to win is not to play. Like the good solution is to have a release day that you stick to and also put the whole game on the disc.
And that's the thing. I mean, like I think the easiest solution is not to say, well, let's just delay all games until they're done, because that would get really annoying really fast. Because again, let's talk about that art half of the equation, right? The dev team's never going to be fully happy with the game, right? It's just never going to happen. If we gave the Final Fantasy,
and that's 15, the point of putting hard dates on it is to put a fire under their ass and say, okay, look, you need to be happy enough with it by this time.
But there needs to be a greater sort of cooperation and collaboration between these two halves, right? Because if Square was a little more cognizant of the fact this wasn't going to happen, they would have avoided the embarrassment of that online stream, right? And you're just putting basically by trying to make this big splash and call your shot, you're just putting yourself out for failure. And in today's industry where fans are so hypercritical of every single misstep, why even bother doing that? I mean, the best thing is just don't make a big deal out of your release dates. I mean, I like, why do you have to have a huge extravaganza to say when a game is going to be able to be bought?
I mean, they did. Stupid. Like, that was kind of stupid. Yeah. Like, most companies do not release their release date with a huge,
Just put it on the GameStop flyer like everybody else. It'll be fine.
Exactly. I mean, in Final Fantasy 15's case specifically, I kind of wonder if, I think there is probably input from the dev side when they talk about these things. I think the marketing people or whatever the suits like talk to the devs and say like, okay, what's a realistic but before Black Friday date that you can give us that you think you can hit, and I'm sure that someone at Square on the development side must have thought like, yeah, we think we can hit this date. But it's such a weird thing because unlike movies, like movies get done shooting
Yeah.
months in advance, and then there's months of post production, and then the marketing vehicles start, or some of that is going on simultaneously. But like, it's a lot more definable if you know about how long this is going to take.
And it's also a lot rarer to see delays and stuff like that. I mean, the
Yeah.
biggest thing you see is studios messing around with the edit after the movie's done, which we
If
saw
you
just
delay on a
recently.
movie, it's usually like, oh, this movie is not going to do as good as we thought it would, so we're going to take it out of the summer and put it into like September.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Or
is why you
focus
see so many like
groups,
crappy
yeah.
action movies hitting in September,
Yeah,
because those were going to be
it's the-
summer movies.
You know,
It's the
you know, a
dead zone.
movie. You know, a movie that got delayed that no one really knows got delayed is Finding Dory. The original ending of that movie was gonna end with the fishies in an aquarium, and then Pixar saw Blackfish, and they're like,
Oh
"Oh
yeah,
crap!"
Yeah.
yeah. I think I remember hearing something about that.
Yeah, I talked to some people at Disney because I lived in Irvine. That's like basically Disneyland. So they had mentioned that's why Pixar doesn't want to make a bad movie, so
Yeah.
they're like, screw it, we're gonna
They've
delay
still
this
done
thing.
it, but they don't want to make it.
They don't want to make
Yeah.
it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
when they see a story that's not going to resonate well, like what happened with SeaWorld, you know, they're like,
Yeah.
oh, like no.
I can see why they would think that that's
Yeah.
a happy ending though. Like they're like, oh, we're giving them the like Andy's Toys ending where they have a new home
Yeah.
that's like safe and nice.
Yep.
But then, of course, that's not going to fly, right? Like
And then
after
Blackfish happened.
makes
So-
100%. Yeah, that makes 100% sense.
You know, talking about how video games are art, it's not just video games that run into this art being commerce thing. You know,
Yeah.
movies, TV, albums, everything are all victims to this now. And the companies that I think I shouldn't say do a good job of it, they don't even mention release dates anymore, are Apple and Nintendo. Apple will tell you when something's releasing like 2 weeks before it comes out.
That's
Yeah.
the best way to do it.
And
Or
Nintendo,
not at all.
and now Nintendo sometimes will tell you, okay, Star Fox is coming out in November. Oh wait, you know what? This game kind of stinks. It's coming out in March
Yeah.
or April.
Yeah.
Or
NX.
Box Boy is coming out next week, I guess.
Yeah,
I think
or
that's-
you know, or like look at Fallout Shelter. They were like, here it is. Go download it. You know, I think that because the hype machine is required for a lot of these games, that a release date is needed. Look at NX. You know, right now we think that NX will come out by the end of March. That's completely financially driven because they want to hit this fiscal year.
Mhm.
I'm very skeptical that it will launch then, but just because Nintendo has a history of delaying everything, especially consoles,
Yeah.
I hope they don't, but I'm still thinking it might be.
Like-
But yeah, I just think that companies like Apple are kind of the proper model now. It's like, look, it's ready. Now we're going to tell you about it.
Yep.
Instead of
Yep.
saying, you know, and I get why, like, E3 is a giant dog and pony show. It's like, here, look at all these cool games that are going to come out eventually. Like, the EA press conference was like, here's a bunch of games, and, like, one of them
that
will
are
come
coming
out.
out in 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, one game will come out this year. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
when I
You
see
might be able
stuff-
to play these before you die. I don't know.
yeah, so it's like, I don't know. I understand from a marketing perspective why they have to do this, but don't use hard dates. Just say, here's this game, fall.
Yeah.
You know,
Or even if you want to go by month, like just say, hey,
Yeah.
we're shooting for sometime in October. We're
to
shooting for
bring up
sometime in December.
To bring up a chatty user, Trapped in Suit made a couple of points that we haven't really touched on that I'd like to read. He said, one thing you would consider is the problem with certification on consoles. It doesn't do a whole lot for quality control of games, and in fact it hurts because day zero patches are common due to fixes being made while the game is in cert. So apparently whatever they are certifying, you know, it's not with the patch. So that's a good point. Like, there's this whole hidden layer of this that we don't, it's not very transparent and we don't really see it. We don't know exactly what's going on with certification and games. But obviously there is a certification process that is going on that is approving these games in their unpatched forms. And speaking of which, kind of a funny story from this week, we got Grow Up for review, and I gave it to Cass. She was interested in reviewing it, and she was like, this doesn't work. It crashes every time. And then I was listening to the Giant Bombcast, and they basically said the same thing. It was crashing for them every time. Apparently, it just crashes if you're connected to the internet. And, like, how did that... Like, how did that get out of cert? Like, why would that ever pass muster? That's insane.
Isn't that a Ubisoft game?
Yes, yeah.
Well, I think you got your answer.
So like that's one of the more striking examples of like how did this pass that I've heard lately.
I don't know. Do you remember the lines in the Division, whatever the base is? You remember that when you could stand in the doorway and block everyone else from coming in?
Yeah, that's right.
Like I'm like, how did this pass, sir? You know, so it's like,
we didn't count on millions of people being jerks.
Yeah, you know, so it's like, I don't know. I feel like game devs, because of this crunch to get money, they're constantly being pushed, you know, and they miss stuff. And like that's why I'm like, I'm okay with day one patches. I hear what you're saying though about the digital divide and how it creates a huge problem for consumers.
And it's shrinking. Don't get me wrong. Like we're better now than we were, but we're still nowhere we need to be.
Yeah.
No, absolutely, and I think you're right that you're going to lose some users, but I think that for the most part, the 70 million people who bought an Xbox 360 all had high-speed internet.
Probably,
you know,
yes.
and
especially since that's, I mean, in the Xbox One's case, like that's kind of how they targeted it. They were like, look, this is for the high-end user who has high-speed internet. This is like what we see as the future. It was a very future-facing console. You dropped a lot of that stuff, but that was how they positioned it in the first place. Yeah. And I think this sort of leads nicely into something else that Trapped in Suit said that I want to read. He said this also comes down to the difference between platforms. PC users almost always want more frequent patches. He says, I just expect Dota to patch every time I boot it up. So because PCs are almost all connected to the internet, you know, like a console may or may not be, but a PC, if you have a PC, there's basically no point in even having one if you're if you're not connected. So it kind of makes sense that they'd be a little more tolerant of patches coming frequently and on day one.
I mean, how often do you just get a Steam patch just for the actual store itself? It seems like once a week, you know, and no one complains about that. I think there was a Doom patch a couple weeks ago that was like massive, and people were complaining about it. I think the problem we're running into now is games are freaking huge, and some ISPs are the worst things on earth, and they have data caps.
That's
you know, and that's becoming a problem and a concern. Is like, okay, I have to download Grand Theft Auto 5 at 60 gigs. I got to download Doom. That's another 60 gigs. Oh crap! I have to download a patch.
I can download this game this month and this other game next month, so
seriously?
That I don't pay an overage charge. Yeah.
Yeah, you start having to manage your bandwidth, which is insane, and we should have unlimited bandwidth. We can argue about the monopoly that is the cable company another time, but
that's a whole other show.
It'd be a good show because I have a lot to say about it. But yeah, I think that there is a problem with the day one patch, but I think that amount of people doesn't matter to the dev. They're like, okay, we'll piss off that 5-10% of people in this country as long as we can keep those 90% of people happy, because if we ship our game late, you're going to have what happened on the internet over Final Fantasy 15 this weekend.
Yeah.
You know, whereas I don't think the outrage over No Man's Sky's day one patch was really that big of a deal.
It's
honestly,
probably not going to last, really. Yeah.
It was a big deal to whoever that jerk is that wrote this is the game that we played before the patch. This is the game we played at. Who cares? It's like, this is the game. Games
this
evolve.
is the game that no longer exists.
Yeah, it's like games evolve. That's the world we're in now. And look at Rocket League. I would much rather have Rocket League releasing patches with new cool stuff than a world where it's like, okay, we have to worry about everybody. You know, it's like, I understand the challenges that the devs face, but I'd much rather have...
To sort of summarize, it sounds like we're more or less in agreement that like day zero patches, whatever you want to call them, day one patches, are like an imperfect solution to a problem that has no real great solution yet, and might never.
It's not. Yeah, I'm not a champion of patches. I'm just saying, like, I'd rather have a patch than the game not come out.
Yeah. I just think it's a messaging problem. If you can get messaging under control, then you don't have to worry about alienating your
that's another good way to put it. I mean, like, well, we need to wrap it up, but that's another good way to put it, Brian, where it's like, to jump off of that and tie it into what I sort of summarized, it's an imperfect solution to a problem that isn't even in development. Like it's an imperfect development solution to a marketing problem.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of why it's imperfect, probably.
Yep.
Yeah, because those two divisions aren't sitting there talking to each other very often until the game's almost ready to ship.
But they probably should.
It's you know what? That's something that at Apple every week on Monday every division meets and they all talk about what's going on at the company, even if it's not directly related. I think collaboration would be good.
I didn't know that.
Yep, every Monday, and I think that's something that a lot of companies could benefit from.
To just like have a camera in the room at one of those meetings, I would get like so many scoops. It would be amazing.
I know. Here's our holographic projector program.
Here's all of the stuff we're working on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on to newsy bits in our game, but first, Brian, a word from our sponsors.
Yes, indeedy. This Chattycast and all other Chattycasts are brought to you by Audible.com. They are offering you, the listeners of this here Shack News Chattycast, a free audiobook download and a free 30-day trial to check out their service. That's 30 days. That's like a month. That's 4 weeks and then a couple days, right? That's a pretty good trial. And they've got lots of great books. There's books on games, technology, history, romance. I don't know, whatever you're into. They're
probably
there.
Dogs.
Probably dogs.
And
definitely video games. I know that there's a few.
You can get your book, your free trial, and your free audiobook download. Just go to audibletrial.com/chattycast. Completely lost the thread there. audibletrial.com/chattycast. 30-day trial, free download. Go do it. Do it.
That's ChattyCast.
Thank you.
Yep. Just like it's on your podcast feed. So
you're looking at the page right now.
We also always have it in the show notes. I always make it clickable if people are really that lazy.
This is what 100 and how many episodes?
104
episodes in. You should know how to spell Chattycast by now.
So newsy bits. First, we have to talk about this. We've talked about the ongoing saga of Metal Gear so much on this show that we had to talk about Metal Gear Survive. Every time I think of that word, I think of Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder. Konami announced its first Metal Gear game without Hideo Kojima. It's called Metal Gear Survive, which is a strange name.
It's a message to the franchise.
Like literally just scraping by on the skin of your teeth.
It got let's say a not incredibly positive response. From me, I don't have much of a pony in this race. Mostly, I'm just surprised that they are even making one.
They were going to. Metal Gear Survive is what happens when a company that doesn't really want to make video games anymore decides that, well, we've got this video game we could still make. Let's go ahead and make it.
I guess let's go ahead.
What's popular with the kids? Zombies, survival, co-op. Okay, that's what it is. We'll just put Metal Gear on it. Why? It doesn't matter. Just do it.
They could have called it Contra and it would have been fine.
That's true.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm almost be more mad about Contra than Metal Gear at this point. Because I feel like, okay, so Metal Gear Solid 5, I feel that's the end of Metal Gear. There is no more Metal Gear. I know there will be some.
That's the end of the arc that Kojima set up, the big crazy arc. It wrapped things up well enough.
And that's kind of free.
It was also the best one. Come at me, haters.
Yeah. I don't think that's wrong. But
I'm going to draw a parallel to Gears development, where Gears 1, 2, and 3 were Cliffy B's baby, and then he left, and then we got Judgment. This is kind of the Gears.
Yeah, this is the Gears of War Judgment of the Metal Gear.
It really is, and no offense to Gears 4, I think it's going to be great. I just think Gears Judgment kind of blew.
Yeah.
It was them trying to keep it going. That seemed almost like contractually obligated. They're like, Microsoft wants the Gears of War.
Yeah.
Shit, what do we do?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm way more excited about Kojima's next project than I am.
Yeah, Death Stranding looks. I don't know what it looks like, but I just want to see more of it.
Even his Dev Studios logo was more exciting than this.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. It'll come out. I guess it might be good, but
I'm curious. Like I said, mostly I'm just surprised that they're making one, or at least that they're making one this soon. I kind of expected it to go through a long period of
Well, see, they're making it this move because from everything we've seen, it is basically just using the assets from Metal Gear Solid 5. So most of the work is done. They just have to put them in a different context.
Yeah, might as well crank out another game on this generation while you can.
No reason not to. And I think putting it at a $30 price point is lovely. I like the idea of there being more range in video game price points. It's one of the reasons I'm excited for ReCore. Like, I don't know. I just feel like I cared about Metal Gear when Kojima was involved. And now that he's not, it's freeing. Like, I can go on.
Whatever you think of
I can move on
Kojima's...
to the next life now.
Whatever you think of Kojima's oddities, he had a vision of what he wanted to do. So that made those games interesting at the very least every time.
Yeah, even his most frustrating tendencies were still kind of fascinating.
Yeah,
exactly,
he's one of the most unique storytellers we have in gaming. So,
so Death Stranding, I'm really looking forward.
And now he's doing Death Stranding. So that should be an interesting to watch, even though we have no idea what that game is.
No, Sony's like, how much are we paying this guy?
Like, I just love like one of the Sony executives standing back there after they watched that trailer for the first time, like Krusty the Clown after looking at the Worker and Parasite cartoon.
Like, what the hell was that? I was imagining a Sony like watching the press conference, like doing a spit take, like.
Kazrai spits all over his whatever smartphone they have at Sony.
Now I will say though, if they make another Metal Gear Rising, I will come back for that. But after,
of course you will, yeah.
I'm like basically after Metal Gear 5, I'm good. Do whatever you want. Metal Gear's done for me.
Do you have any other newsy bits?
We do have another newsy bit. This isn't even really news. It's just something that I thought was kind of funny. There was the fake Half-Life 3 announcement at Gamescom.
Boo!
Did you see this?
That was great.
Some very clever, unscrupulous marketing company.
Oh man, that was so good. I'm sorry, but that
made a big banner that said Half-Life 3.
That's terrible.
Because they're assholes. But what was the context? It was a good way to get attention. It was Half-Life : I think it translated to something like 3 developers who played the original or something like that.
Which is so stupid. Like, why would you even go to that panel?
Like a talk with 3 people who played it.
Yeah.
It's idiotic, but I thought it was funny.
I will tell you, I have tried doing talks about games I have played when they came out, and nobody ever comes to those. So
yeah, well, you need to start labeling it. Half-Life :
presumptuous.
3.
Like, even apart from the trolling, it is pretty presumptuous, if you ask me.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Half-Life 3 is just this. It's this thing that they're keeping in their pocket for whenever they do sell the company, so that whoever acquires them will be like, well, we get to release Half-Life 3. You know? Like, I don't know.
Finally get to do it. Yeah.
What if Half-Life 3 is just Half-Life Match 3, and it's just a bejeweled game with social
elements?
What if
Half-Life 3 is Frog Fraction 4? Think about it.
Well, we're already 2 games ahead. I like
Frog Fractions.
Yeah, by the time Half-Life 3 comes out, it will be Frog Fractions 4.
Too. We knew that.
Anyway. I don't know. Valve had a really good week with Dota 2, though. I mean, the international was pretty cool.
Yeah. It always is.
It's really big. So so they announced a new hero there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and this is like the first hero that wasn't a port from the original, which means it's the first hero that's not a knockoff of a Blizzard design, which is kind of exciting.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I just can't get into Dota, because I'm just looking like this is all stuff that Blizzard
You're like, that's
did.
Jaina. I'm looking. That's Jaina right there.
Exactly. Like, you have to kind of like, you can't just rip off the stuff Blizzard ripped off from Warhammer, okay? Like, it's like a Xerox
2
of
layers
Xerox.
of rip-offs. Yeah.
Well, at least it worked out for Overwatch the other way.
Yeah.
It's basically Team Fortress 3, so.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think Blizzard should actually get in the business of making the third. They should make Half-Life 3. And they should make
Portal 3.
They should make Left 4 Dead 3, and they should make Portal 3, and Team Fortress. Well, they already did. Team Fortress 3.
Half-Life 3 developers who talked to the original.
Just a quick anecdote about Blizzard, real quick. Diana the Moon, one of our Shackers, she works over there, and we were talking at ShackCon, and apparently everyone at Blizzard loves Street Fighter. Like, they're all playing Street Fighter 5. I'm like, why don't you guys just buy Capcom and make Street Fighter 6?
It can't be worth that much. you can make a new Mega Man.
I'm sitting here
imagining Street Fighter.
I'm sitting here imagining what Blizzard would do with Street Fighter.
It'd be awesome.
I need a minute.
You're getting tingles.
Right? Right?
You're like fanning
I'm
yourself.
I'm not wrong. I
got the vapors.
I'm not wrong.
Even if they don't buy Street Fighter, I'd love to see them do a fighting game. They've got the roster.
But then Nintendo couldn't buy Mega Man, which is my dream that they do that someday.
Yeah,
they
I
could
think
split it.
I think
Yeah,
someone needs to acquire Capcom.
Put
or
it
at
up
least
for auction.
some of
Someone
their
good.
assets. Yeah, like Nintendo or Blizzard, I think would be great acquirers. I think Blizzard makes more sense because you want Capcom's assets to be cross-platform. But yeah, I don't know. I thought that was an interesting.
Yeah, for Street Fighter and
anecdote.
stuff, that does make sense.
But
Yeah.
you can see a lot of the Street Fighter influence in Overwatch. Like it's very much, I see Overwatch as almost like it's very much a Team Fortress-y thing, but it almost feels less like a shooter and more like a fighting game in some cases.
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
You are literally, here's your character, here's what they do, here's the best instances, and here's the best matchups and that sort of thing.
Even the animations, the celebrations, everything.
And there being different builds of different types of characters instead of just like, okay, there's a soldier and he's a soldier, and that's the soldier. You know.
But I will say, man, a Blizzard fighting game, like because they have those arcade machines in one of the maps in Overwatch where it's like Fighters of the Storm and it's like Kerrigan fighting a Marine.
Okay,
that's the dream. That's the dream.
It would be
Before
very
Brian
Blizzard.
passes out, let's move on. Let's move on to our game. Today's game is. I love this game. It's another game of chip tunes. I love chip tunes.
Okay, cool.
It's so easy on me, and also just fun because I don't actually.
Brought to you by whatever YouTube autoplay ads.
Yeah, so hopefully I don't get a bunch of YouTube autoplay ads. I'm sorry if I do.
Time for YouTube Reds.
You know the rules. You name the game, you get a point. You name the song or stage that it is associated with, you get a bonus point. So I've got 6 songs picked out. There is a common theme.
So do we buzz in by saying our names, or do we say each other's names? Like, can I buzz in by saying Asif's name?
I mean, just say Buzz.
No, buzz in by saying your own name, or yeah, I guess just buzz in by saying your own name.
Can Lola buzz in for Asif?
I was going to say like buzz in by saying like, just the name of the thing, but that might not be a good idea. So
she's sad because we mentioned Half-Life 3.
Oh,
oh, so sad.
Well, because like it's actually Half-Life 21 in her years, so it's
nice.
Stupid. Don't laugh at that.
Thanks for stalling while I look at this YouTube thing.
Oh, I got this one. Yo, Buzz, me, Brian. This is Sonic the Hedgehog 2 Chemical Plant Zone.
Oh man, 2 points right out the gate.
You have no idea how many times I played that game when I was a kid.
I was trying to pick like a less obvious one by not just going with like the opening whatever, and by going with Sonic 2 instead of Sonic 1.
You could probably pick just about any song from that game. I would have gotten it right away.
All right, Brian takes the lead with 2 points already.
Kids, there was a time when Sonic the Hedgehog was actually good, like not like
and it was called Sonic 2.
That was the new Sonic game coming out.
I have high hopes.
That could be cool.
It looks like it's designed
Both
by
of them actually look like they could have
know what they're doing.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. No autoplay. No autoplay. Come on. No whammies. It's going
Big bucks. Big bucks. Big bucks.
Nothing?
Sounds really
Buzz?
familiar.
Asif?
Yeah?
Commando?
No, I'm sorry. It's not Commando.
I don't know, but it sounds so familiar. I'm going to be mad when I hear it, I'm sure.
No guesses on that one. That was Altered Beast.
Oh!
It was from the first stage, so it was just called Rise from Your Grave.
Rise from your grave.
Rise from your grave.
I love how so many video game voiceovers are done by Elmer Fudd. Dr. Wiley's in the wait all womb.
This one, I think, this is a little softer and it takes a little while to get started. So let's try it out.
Oh, this sounds familiar too.
So soothing.
Okay, I'm gonna buzz in, and this
Like
might
I'm
be
in a yoga
wrong.
class. Yeah.
Is this Echo the Dolphin?
It is Echo the Dolphin. Yes.
I don't know the stage, but
It's just title screen. It doesn't. Yeah, it's not really anything in particular. It's
I
just
see
the most identifiable Echo music that I could find.
I see the theme already for the record.
All right. This one might be a little confusing. Here we go. Oh no! Hold on. I messed up my click on my touch screen here. All right.
Want to do more dog jokes?
Yeah, you can do a little more shtick. Go for it.
Yeah, I know the theme too.
Oh,
Buzz!
Okay, I'll give it.
Okay, also send Buzz.
Earthworm Jim?
It is Earthworm Jim. What stage is it?
Level 3.
It might be. I don't know.
I know the stage, but I won't get points for it. But I know the stage.
What's the stage?
It's
Brian?
heck.
It's yes. It is technically called What the Heck.
Oh, what the
Stage.
stage?
Yeah.
I was a little off.
Yeah. But yes, that is the planet Heck.
It's one of the few games
I love her.
If we let that song keep going, it would have turned into like a more like calm melody, but with people screaming.
It's elevator music.
Yeah, it's elevator music with people screaming. It's great.
Yeah,
Yep.
that game was incredible. I still have I have a soft spot for Earthworm Jim.
Me too. That cartoon too.
Yeah, that cartoon was
I
actually
loved Earthworm Jim, the cartoon. It's very short-lived, but it was great.
So it's 2-1 right now, or
3-1.
3-1. Oh man.
Yeah, Ryan got another one.
Oh,
So,
Echo. Yeah.
These next two are the last two. They're a little tougher. At least I think they will be. Who knows? This game was so bad. I'm having like memories.
Sounds so familiar, but I can't place it. Yeah, I'm good. I got nothing.
Yeah, dumb attempts at 16-bit butt rock. Asif, do you have a guess? Should I just stop this madness?
Buzz, Chrono Trigger.
No, it's not Chrono Trigger.
I'm just throwing out names.
How dare you, sir?
I know. I just wanted to piss you off, actually.
That's -5 points.
It's fun to do that, though, isn't it?
That was
I love it.
That was Eternal Champions.
Oh,
Eternal
I do remember.
Champions.
Okay, that's why it sounded familiar.
The
Eternal
bad
Champions.
Street Fighter / Mortal Kombat like,
So,
and that was the theme song for Jonathan Blade.
yeah, who was a guy who was a vampire? No, he was the guy from the future who was like had like a visor.
Something,
Yeah.
yeah. All right.
So I mean, Eternal Champions isn't good, but the story was amazing. Like the premise behind it was actually really solid. And
They they drew in people from all different time periods to fight each other.
Yeah, they're like all people who died under violent or mysterious circumstances, and they're all fighting to get brought back to life like a second before they died, so they could avert their deaths. And like that is a pretty brutal concept, but it's really clever.
That's a great high concept. Yeah,
and it lets you do like a bunch of like you have like an acrobat fighting a vampire man and stuff like that. It was
yeah.
I mean,
They
garbage
let
game,
them-
but a cool idea.
It was let's not oversell it.
Like here's the thing: if some company wanted to come, maybe Blizzard wanted to come back, bring back that IP the same way that Microsoft did with Killer Instinct, I would be open to it.
Yeah. All right, last one. Technically, also, if you could tie with this.
Buzz.
Yes. There was a question mark in that buzz.
Moonwalker.
No. Although that's a pretty good guess. It does sound a little bit like Moonwalker. No, that is. Well, wait, Brian, do you have a guess?
Wait, is it Comics Zone?
It is Comics Zone.
Oh my God!
Comics Zone with an X.
That was another game. Brilliant premise, not so great as a game.
So these were all. I'm gonna just say the theme. These were all Genesis games, right?
They were all Genesis games. Yes.
Here's why I stunk at this game. We got a Genesis when I was a kid, but both my brothers were in college at the time, and NHL was like awesome for it. Mm-hmm. So they took it, and I never got to. They took it to college.
So you got to play like Sonic, and that was it.
I got to play Sonic, Altered Beast, and then that was it. I got it back like. I got the Genesis back once it wasn't cool. So like, I was like, gee, thanks. I was really. I had an SNES in that time period, so that's why I really was.
Yeah. So when I come back and do one with like the Super Scope 6, you'll be like, oh, I know this one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So okay, let's go for plugs. Brian, do you have a plug to mention?
Not really. Nothing coming out. I'm working on some ideas and some stuff.
I mean, you are working on your Madden review, but we already kind of
Yeah, like that's coming out sometime next week, and I've got a video I'm planning with as part of a series I want to do for our new game studies program at the university, but that's not going to be done till maybe next week, optimistically. So since it hasn't even been done yet, I'm not going to plug it until it actually happens.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Just at Learn or Not.
Yeah, and Asif, I know that
look
you
up Eternal Champions, kids. It's
it's
like
it's a bad game, but it's
don't
good.
play it, but read the Wikipedia.
Yeah, there you go. So Asif, I know that you're sort of hopping the country a lot these days, so you don't necessarily have a lot of time to be doing something to plug. But what are you up to?
I got some plugs. Tomorrow is the 1 year anniversary of Mercury beta.
Oh yeah.
That's that $5 a month subscription service that helps keep Shack Music alive, and it also gives you a ad-free experience on our site. So that's pretty awesome. I am working on some stuff because I still have some QuakeCon content that I'd like to get out the door. And yeah, usually just check out our guides. We have some really good guides right now. Eric uploaded some really cool stuff for Madden. Kind of all the I think it's the top 10 offensive players, top 10 defensive players by ranking, and also that original video. So check out that stuff. Greg has a really good interview that hit our site for the fractured butthole. So if you're if on
kind of blended some words together there.
No.
That's how you say it.
It's the fractured butthole. But yeah, that interview is really good, and I should have my Quake Champions interview hit the site also sometime this week. I'm really excited for Quake Champions, guys. I'm gonna just say that right now. I'm gonna keep saying that.
Cool. So I'm reading about Eternal Champions, guys.
Jeez.
Wait. This is what you have to hear. Mean Machine Sega gave it a score of 97%, calling it, quote, at least as good as Street Fighter 2.
No.
No, not even close.
Which is crazy.
I have some residual affection for that game, but there is no world in which it is anywhere near Street Fighter's level.
No,
better than the first Mortal Kombat, yes.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll plug Lola too. She's cute.
Yeah, she is.
Electronic Gaming Monthly looks like the only one that was smart enough to give it like pretty low scores, between 5s and 8s.
I kind of miss
that's
the
why
days
Eugene stuck around for longer.
I just kind of miss the days of garbage fighting games coming out every other week. I kind of wish we could go back to that.
Yeah.
Do you remember Pro Wrestling for NES?
When Street Fighter hit, it was like all garbage all the time.
Like, Asif, I do remember that, and honestly, if there's one game I could bring back, I have a pitch for it already. It's going to be incredible. So if Nintendo, if you're watching this, I've got, it's all here. You're going to make $1 billion with this. It's going to be fantastic. Yep.
Starman, Lizard Man.
The Swamp Creature. Yeah.
Yeah. This is such a good game. Not really, but...
Wasn't the Swamp Creature called Gillman or something? I don't know, but I don't know. You could do some amazing things with that, and that's why I wish Next Level Games had worked on instead of wasting their time with Metroid.
There was a Turbo Edition style sequel-ish thing called Challenge from the Dark Side.
Yeah.
And then there was a game called Eternal Champions: The Final Chapter that was advertised for Sega Saturn but was canceled. So we need to call up Frank Cifaldi or something and be like, get us a copy of that.
Again, terrible game, but I would watch it. If you make a movie or something or a TV series, I would absolutely watch it.
Yeah, it's not bad. Not a bad premise. All right, so we can move on into. I can stop playing this actually. Did anyone for 100 extra bonus points? Who knows that?
That sounded like a Chrono Trigger.
That was. I was sort of setting up Asif to say that, but yes, that was.
I wanted to use that to insult you. Not. I know how much you love that game, and it's.
I love that game. I love that soundtrack so much.
I wish we just did a 8-bit whatever BitTunes or whatever that game was called of just F-Zero maps. I would own.
Yeah, you'd be like, oh, this is Blue, whatever it's called.
Big Blue, Mute City, Firefield. Yeah.
All right, I'll keep that in mind for next time. I'll stack the deck in your favor. So that's the show. check out my Deus Ex Go review. That's the most recent thing I've done. That's what I'll plug. And also check out the game because it's a good game. So until next time, review us on iTunes. So for Awesome Con, I am Steve and Lola. And I am Steve Watts.
I'm Brian Carr. I'm sorry, I was just. I had to look up the videos for Eternal Champions on Sega CD. I'm sorry. But I'm Brian Carr.
Why?
I'm gonna go figure out what she's
the dark
working
path
at.
that we've taken Brian
Incredible.
down. All right,
Incredible.
we'll see you on Chatty.
Bye.